it's Rob again. It's time for a brand new episode of Member Talks. I want to thank you guys for watching. We are with Mitch Smith from eFuneral, which is a homesteaders company. Mitch, how you doing today?
Not bad at all. How about yourself, Rob?
Doing well. It's a beautiful day here in Spokane. It's summertime, and we're just enjoying it. Where are you at?
We're in Des Moines, Iowa, right in the middle.
No kidding.
We're in a heat wave, so
Yeah,
good day to be in
I
the
feel.
air conditioning.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. So Mitch, we got to meet at the Cana convention this year, and despite our best efforts to sit down with you one-on-one there, it just didn't work out. We were going, you were at one area, I was at another, and every time we tried to connect, it we just never got to do it. But now we get to. Zoom is fun, and we get to say that we can meet here.
Absolutely. If any company is going to come out of the pandemic with a blue ribbon on their chest, it's Zoom.
No kidding, right?
Connecting people where they couldn't before.
Absolutely. It's an amazing thing, actually, the technology. And that kind of leads into what you guys are doing with eFuneral. But just the technology, let's talk about that up for a minute. My goodness, 10 years ago, funeral service technology really was a calculator and a pad and a pen, and that was about it. And all of a sudden, you started seeing computers, then you started seeing software, websites, reviews, everything, and up pops eFuneral.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. When I think through what we've done as an organization to try to put the funeral home at the center of everything we do and bring more families into their view, we didn't necessarily have the warmest introduction, right? When we were first introduced to the masses, it really was viewed probably in a sense that we were going to come in and take them out of the mix. And we've definitely proven over time that our only intention is to increase the number of leads and sales. But, fundamentally what we do is we place a button in the simplest technology connotation on the website that allows families to purchase pre-need or at-need services online.
Okay.
We take everything from the funeral home. They give us their GPL, what pieces of merchandise. We don't prescribe a thing. They tell us what they want to sell. We then turn it into a Shopify, for lack of a better term, allowing the consumers to come through, whether they're in the state of Washington or around the country. And they can do that from the privacy of their home. They can do it across the desk from someone in the funeral home. We just want to make sure that they have the tools to bring more family, more revenue, and give the consumers a chance to shop the way they want to shop.
Okay. Now, I will bring up a concern that I've heard from folks of how does that take out the sort of customer experience? I mean, the one-on-one, if somebody's going direct to your website, shopping straight from your website, how does the funeral home even know that it's taken place?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way, in terms of transactionally, the way that they know that it happens is we have a series of communications that'll get set up. So funeral home will tell me the list of people who want to be notified, whether that's via text message or email. They'll dictate that, whether it's different by pre-need, whether that's different by at-need, who needs the leads, who should receive the final pieces of paperwork, kind of the actual checking the boxes pieces. And what's been most interesting to the first part of your question there, I believe, is we have funeral homes of all shapes and sizes around the country, from very, very high-end multi-location to cremation organizations. And the one thing continues to come to the forefront is that when they have an opportunity to meet the family, because they will, the pieces of the conversation go so much smoother because there's certain things that have already been taken care of. Money's been collected, paperwork's been signed. Even if they need to give them another service or show them something that they maybe wouldn't have otherwise landed on themselves on the website, they've committed themselves to that brand. So our hope is always is to think of it this way. I'm going to use Best Buy. It may not be the best analogy in the world in terms of companies, but if I were to buy an iPad on Best Buy versus walk into a Best Buy and buy an iPad, I'm not thinking of those as different transactions. It's one company that I'm choosing to do business with.
Sure.
And so we're just giving consumers the path to use what Amazon and Best Buy and all these other organizations have done and give us choice. And if we give consumers choice, all of the things that the funeral home has done to build trust and respect in their neighborhoods for generations is just going to make them feel even more confident that not only have they been here, but they're investing in tools to make things easier for me.
Well, I'm glad to use that Best Buy analogy, because when you think about what we're doing in today's modern age, modern technology age. We're just bringing that to funeral service, or bringing funeral service up to speed. I mean, there are companies all over the place, from Amazon to even your local pizza delivery place, where you go online, you place your order shipped to you, and problem solved. And it's up to the company, I would assume, to personalize that, like you mentioned, of when you do finally do talk with the family, if this is a funeral home transaction, um, all the awkwardness, all the questions, they're already done. It's already answered. It's ready to go. So you can just actually build a relationship with the family at that point.
Yeah, and we have no intention, and we've believed this from the very beginning. We're not going to prevent people from walking through the doors, right? The handshake is still going to be the predominant way that that funeral home meets the clients. This really can be a edge case tool in certain situations. Maybe the loved ones across the country, and they're the ones doing the planning. And if minimum, especially if you start to think through the way that we're priced, it's very, very, very attractive in terms of what it would, one single cost can cover one single sale rather can cover the cost of the entire tool. Our hope is to, as a homesteaders company, grow the overall number of policies for that family, the overall number of policies for homesteaders, and it's extend that reach. Because over and over and over again, we know that if they can make a connection with the family, and they can make that day a little bit better for the kin that are there, they're going to earn that business the next time. So we want to make sure that we can get them as many touches, as many families, as many leads, as many sales as we can.
Sure. So Homesteaders is an insurance company, as we know. They've been around for quite some time, and certainly you've probably heard of Homesteaders. If you read any trade journals, see anything online, that sort of thing, been to any conventions, they're kind of a big company. But eFuneral has partnered with Homesteaders. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but that's what we're going to say.
I'll even say this: we are 100% owned by homesteaders. So
okay, there you go.
Homesteaders invested 5 years ago and knew this was going to be the way things were going to beginning to trend. So they wanted to make sure that they were the first ones out of the gate with the solution.
Gotcha. So somebody goes to eFuneral, they say, I want to get a pre-arrangement, I want to get things set up. It's actually underwritten by a national insurance company, Homesteaders. So you know that the finance part of it's safe. It's available. Homesteaders is in 50 states, all 50 states. Is that right?
Except for New York.
Except for New York. Okay.
Most insurance companies have that exact same experience.
Yeah. There certain states, Washington being included. So congratulations on getting here. But certain states have some pretty strict insurance rules, and can be very difficult to get licensed in. Like I say, I applaud you for getting into Washington, because it's a tough one.
Took some time, but we're happy to be here.
So you go online. I want to backtrack just a second. You go online. There's a button you can click. It takes you to filling out what you want. Or are you seeing when people are doing this on their own? Are you seeing? Are they selecting services and merchandise comparably higher or lower than what they would see if they are walking in and sitting down with a funeral director or a pre-arrangement counselor? What are you seeing there?
So the way that it works today is the consumer would go to fill in the blank funeral home. They would go actually find them on Google. They would go to the funeral home's website. Within there, maybe they're searching in the pre-planning sections of the website. Maybe there's a button. Excuse me. Then we ask some timing questions. Is this that need? Is this imminent? Is this in the future, 6 months or greater? As we continue to move through, we then offer them up packages, merchandise, additional items, anything that's going to make that funeral home unique. We have a funeral home in Missouri as an example, where their cremated remains can be put into a firework and they'll do a show. So things like that, things to make that funeral home stand out.
Yeah.
And on average, for those funeral homes that have a homesteader's policy written on paper, and we've got a pretty big swath to compare this against, we're about 12 to 15% higher than that written on paper.
Okay.
And this is just anecdotally. We're not surveying these people to figure out why they spent more. But the system, and this is one of the reasons that the regulators have been pleased with it, is because it forces them down the path every time. The disclosures need to be presented. But in doing so, we're going to show them the packages every time. We're going to show them the caskets every time. So it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they're going to see the same thing. So they
Right.
start to build the path and know what amount of money makes most sense for them. And then they're going to land on their decision based on what they know to be the truth. And their truth is sitting in front of the funeral director, or their truth could be sitting in front of a computer screen, because the
Yeah.
consumer at the end of the day is deciding what is, their driving factor.
Well, it would be interesting to see a survey on why that is. I just on my own personal understanding or belief, we hear all the time of people are, afraid of the upsell. Funeral homes for years have gotten a bad rap about the upsell, and we're taking advantage. And I think a lot of people go into the funeral home with that mindset already, that, oh my gosh, I have to go here. They're gonna try to upsell me. Truth of the matter is that doesn't happen. It might seem that way, but that's 90% of the funeral homes out there are not doing that. They're just simply providing options. It sounds like, at least in the way I would understand it, what's happening with eFuneral and giving all the options to the consumer on a way that the consumer can truly feel like they're making that selection, might allow them the opportunity to make a selection that they may not make if they're being asked about it or shown this by another individual. Rather, selecting from a computer screen versus selecting from an agent or a funeral director. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but it just seems like I would think that the sales would be higher, if you will, on something like that.
I think what we've found, and from the time we were building up our staff internally, we always follow that our number one core value internally is do right by others. But the second thing we tend to think about is trust builds respect over a long term builds connection leads to really, really good things. And so if you can make enough connections with enough families, right, it's not that people will always shop online and they will only shop online. I think the reality is you're going to have people looking because they're interested.
Right.
And they may file that away for 5 or 10 years from now, but at least they know this funeral home gave me an opportunity to understand what the process looks like. Demystified it a little bit.
Sure. Now, did I hear you correctly? Did you? I obviously we can do this on a pre-need basis. Can you do this on an at-need basis?
We can. And for the most part, I would say, I got to go back and look at the numbers, but we're about 70% pre-need, 30% at-need. Okay. And I think 45 to maybe 50, I think it's a little bit closer to 45, to be honest, of our funeral homes, percentage of our funeral homes don't use at-need. So less than half of them are driving 30% of the traffic. And of that group, an even smaller percentage is doing it because they're really, really actively using the tool as their main checkout method.
Okay.
So at-need, pre-need, and imminent sales can all be turned off with a flick of a switch. So we have certain funeral homes who only use us for at-need and vice versa for only pre-need. And then we're continuing to build our tool set out to make things easier in terms of document collection, payment routing, all those things that take a burden off of the funeral staff.
So how does that work on an at-need basis? If a person has a death in their family, they do some reviews, they do some Google searches, they find the funeral home, a funeral home. And there's a button on there that says you can do your funeral all completely online right here. Push this button and it connects to eFuneral, I'm assuming. And that walks them through the process. What happens next? Does the funds go directly to the funeral home to pay for those services? Do they go through a different party? How does that, or is it like a credit card processing thing, or how does that work with the funds?
So for the at-need in particular, we make a connection to them via payment portal. And so we route the money directly into their account. Okay. So from there, they're going to get text messages, emails. We always kind of say it's send up the bat signal, so to speak. We really, really test these and make sure that the people who receive the phone calls, text messages, and emails know what they're looking for. Yeah. And for the most part, if they're receiving at-needs, we call them organic and not. There's going to be a much lower percentage of people who experience a death, go onto the website without first communicating with the funeral home and purchasing it. It has happened quite a few times, but not nearly as frequently as the funeral director having a conversation with the family and then giving them the option of finalizing the payment on the website.
Okay, so that actually leads to a question I was thinking of what do you have in place in the event that that does happen? Because I could see a family, you know, a lot of times families don't know what to do next. They have
Mhm.
a death, they don't know where to turn, they've never had this experience before. They are winging it. This is brand new to them. And so they go on. It used to be they would open up a phone book and go to the yellow pages under funeral home, and they would pick somebody. Now they can go onto Google or whatever and pick whatever they want on there. So they select funeral home X. Funeral home X has this portal for making all arrangements. What is there in place that's going to notify the funeral home that the death has actually happened and is ready? You know, the person's ready to be received, or that sort of thing. How does that process work?
Great question. So what we've done to this point is, as they go through and they're providing us with that information, their packages at the very preliminary, all the way through who they are, who they're planning for, where their loved one's located. Along the way, if they're outside of their mileage territory, we can auto calculate those fees. So the staff at the funeral home is going to receive a full rundown of what was included. So it can come via email, and it always will come via email, so they can kind of see the full breadth of what to expect. But
Sure.
specifically, the phone calls and the text messages have been probably the most impactful, because it's going to tell the staff who planned for it, how to get a hold of that person, and where the loved one's located.
Okay.
So for them, it's just they get the text, they get the phone call, they then take action, they get a hold of Rob or whomever is on the other side of the computer. They make a connection in terms of trying to figure out the next steps in the process. And then for the most part, what we've heard is once they come in, they spend nearly their entire time focused on memorialization. There may be a
Yeah.
few things that need to get covered. Maybe we need a signature on a cremation authorization, or maybe finalize some of the vital statistics or something along those lines.
Yeah. How about document signing? Is that done as well? I mean, can you do it through like some form of a DocuSign program, or is it,
Mhm.
how does that work? If
Yeah.
somebody just does not want to come in, I mean, we obviously that people don't want to come to the funeral home. I get that, but especially now with COVID, not wanting to come in on top of just the fear of not wanting to come in.
Yeah.
Is there a
Great
way to
question.
send all documentation through that system to the family for signing?
Yeah, so today we handle everything on the pre-need contract. So we get the goods and services, the
Mhm.
insurance, all those are handled electronically. Excuse me. As we get to NFDA, we'll have a new product rolled out that will finalize the remainder of that process.
Okay.
Any other document that needs to get included and added will be as kind of part and parcel with the tool.
Yeah.
So from our perspective, we started down that path a long time ago. And just like you talked about with the state by state regulations, there's even deeper and more convoluted rules as it relates to who can sign what in what state. So instead of trying to tackle that bear all at once, we're going to be giving the funeral homes the ability to upload their own documents, tell us who needs to sign, and then we can make sure that we can validate that person is who they say they are, as the funeral home waits for those signatures to be collected.
Mhm. Okay, good. Well, it sounds like a very interesting program. You know, I don't know, you know, I'd love to see more people use it and get some more reviews and things like that. But I'd really like to see the program in action myself. So do you guys do like a demo for funeral homes, or how does
We
that typically
absolutely
work?
do. We absolutely
Yeah.
do. And there's a couple ways to go about doing it. They can contact me directly, of course. The best website for them to go to is going to be partner.efuneral.com. So
Okay.
within there, they're going to be able to find testimonials. There's actually a button they can click to just schedule a demo with me. And then they're going to get on the phone with me or someone on my team, and we're going to go through and show them how the system works. I think as you think through, does this work? There is definitely an array of opinions on whether this will or won't work in their area. And
Hmm.
for us, I'm like, I welcome questions. I welcome fears and hesitations, because those are things that we can do to not only make this easier to use for the consumer, but to bring the funeral director even closer to the process so that they know what's happening. And it's no longer just someone on the other side of a computer, but now it's someone in their community. So partner.efuneral.com is going to be the best place for them to get to learning about what we do, how we do it, book a demo. And for those who don't write with homesteaders, the good news is there's not going to be any conflict of interest. right? The policies that get generated on eFuneral, of course, those go to homesteaders, but
Sure.
anywhere else, the leads we generate, you can work with whatever insurance company you want on those. And I think one thing that's probably important to know, does this work, is a question we get a lot. And early on, we were convincing funeral homes, trust me, trust Luke, our president, we're working really hard to make this work. And up, I think as of yesterday morning, we've had $11.71 million in total funeral sales.
Wow.
We've sent $25.89 million worth of leads to funeral homes, and we've had $202 million worth of funerals shopped for across our 600 clients. When I say
That's really
shopped
good.
for, that's someone coming and putting merchandise in the cart.
Yeah. 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 So here's a question for you. And I'm not sure the correct way to ask it, other than just to say, is it a proprietary thing? And I know that's the wrong terminology to use. I don't mean that, but let's say you have 2 or 3 funeral homes in your community that you can choose from. Is it a first come, first serve, or is it open to every funeral home to be able to offer the program?
Yeah. And actually, we structured our business around this for this very reason. We're open to every funeral home, but we very much intentionally do not compete. We do not market on behalf. We are a sales tool. So from there, the funeral home can decide how they decide to market or take that out. We're never going to be in direct conflict with another funeral home because we're not trying to steal digital space. We're not trying to steal web traffic. All we're doing is allowing the consumer to finalize the sale if they see fit through the website.
Well, knowing funeral directors and funeral homes, this is definitely, I could see there might be some reluctancy. It's a risk, but you know what they say, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. And, it just is a matter of trying something new. And fortunately for funeral service, this, like many things, are basically brand new. You said you guys have been around for a few years, and I get that, but ultimately it's still pretty new to everybody. And it's definitely something that I think could benefit other people, and definitely something that could benefit funeral service.
Oh yeah, compared to the 105 years of homesteaders, we're definitely in our infancy, and it's been really exciting because there's been a huge uptick in the number of tools like this, right? There's always been companies like Parting Pro, a wonderful tool. I get a chance to meet those guys and see them at trade shows.
Yeah.
As new things roll out, it really validates what we're doing, and it takes the funeral homes from a I'm not sure to a it's time to investigate. And they may view it and say it's not for me, and I totally appreciate that. But I say at least take some time to see what it's all about, and then all we need to hear is a yes or a no, and either way we can help you out. We just want to make sure that you know what's going on, and feel free to use us at any time. I appreciate the newness of the organization, but I assure you, after a conversation, I think with me or someone on my team, you'll be able to see at least what our goal is, and trying to drive you more traffic.
Well, Mitch, how do we get in touch with you? How would somebody reach out and say, you know what, I want to try this demo, I want to see what this is about? What is it? How do we get in touch with you or eFuneral?
You got it. So partner.efuneral.com is going to be the quickest way to get to our website. My name is Mitch Smith. My email is msmith@efuneral.com. And then they can reach me right at my desk line, area code 515-305-2700. And then for those of you who have an account executive, Brianne Niedermeyer is going to be the one who handles the majority of the state of Washington. She can also get you in touch with me.
Great. And
I'll make sure
you guys,
get you all those links.
Good. Yes. And you said you're going to NFDA this year. You're going to be there.
We are. It'll be, yeah. Cana was my first time on the road since the last time they had it in person in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Which would have been February of 2020.
Right.
And I remember coming home. My wife and I took my 2 sons to we live in Des Moines, Iowa, really close to Minnesota. So we went up to Minnesota first. My boys are hockey players. And on our way home is when things started to really shut down. So it was just, it'd been quite some time since I was in the seat of an airplane.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't been in one since, but fortunately we were we were very fortunate that Cana came to us, and then right after that we had our state convention as well. So it's been a lot of fun. But I'm really looking forward. If somebody could say I'm looking forward to the long flight to Nashville, I'm kind of looking forward to it. Getting out
Nashville's a great
and
town.
yeah, and I'm looking forward to NFDA's international convention that they do. That's always a lot of fun. So I'll come by and see you.
I love it. I love it. We're a small sales team, so we don't have the capability to go around to do a lot of state level shows. Maybe at some
Right.
point in time we'll have more, but it's difficult to have people out of the office all the time. So, but
Yeah.
someday I hope to be in person for the Washington State show.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep you posted. We got our new convention scheduled already for what it would be. It'll be 2022. So it'll be getting announced here shortly, but we got the dates be in August. So hopefully we can get you out.
I love it.
Hey, Mitch, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for joining the conversation, letting us know what eFuneral is and being a part of our Member Talks show. We love having you out here. Any last words before we get off of here?
No, for all the people on the line, thank you for all you do. We don't do what we do without you helping the families day to day.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mitch, and thank you, eFuneral. Thank you, homesteaders, for all that you guys do. And until next week, we will see you all soon. Bye, everybody.